Everyone, including Elon Musk, has said that we don't have enough energy to run the machines we need to do this. I don't see that as necessarily good news for fossil fuels because I think there is a huge push to get energy from other sources because oil is hard to get because of geopolitics. People don't like how the oil market changes all the time. We can see the huge push in Europe towards solar, wind, and geothermal energy. Apple and Amazon are already moving toward nuclear power in the US. David has talked a lot about this. A lot of the time, David thinks and talks about what it means for energy. From a broad perspective, I believe there will be a much bigger change than just the fossil fuel revolution. Jenny Johnson, the CEO and president of Franklin Templeton, a financial company with $1.6 trillion in assets, recently said again that she supports blockchain in an interview with David Weston from Bloomberg at the 27th Annual Milken Institute Global Conference in California. Johnson talked about tokenization and generative AI, two of the hot topics that were talked about. When asked how Franklin Templeton would gain from tokenization, Johnson gave an enthusiastic answer. She talked about a time when the company processed account records using both traditional ways and blockchain for 6 to 8 months in a timed experiment. Johnson said that the findings were very good. We were shocked at how much less expensive it was to do it on blockchain. She talked about how efficient blockchain is and how it could create new investment opportunities. She said that ETFs and mutual funds would eventually switch to blockchain because it is so expensive to check data across different systems, which is exactly what blockchain is meant to do. Johnson also said that data still needs to be checked between outside parties, even though it is handled and stored by financial institutions and stakeholders. She said that Johnson used pop star Ryan as an example of blockchain. Ryan released a set of 300 NFTs that gave owners a share of the royalties from one of the artist's songs through smart contracts. She talked about Franklin Templeton's new partnership with Microsoft to create an AI-powered sales assistant and emphasized that this is a good area to invest. Johnson also said that AI-powered translation services could help people in business who don't speak the same language. This is the only stock option market in the US for tech names, and it's also the busiest market in the world. You can't trade Eurodollar options, couch options, or anything else like that. People should learn how to use this huge market because it can help them a lot. Don't just use it to guess about the world. An important thing that Imran thinks about a lot is how to get the most out of things. Or as you say, Maggie, how do I become more comfortable with the chances I'm taking because I don't like drawdowns or anything else? If we think that liquidity is what drives risky assets and growth assets most, then crypto and tech are growth assets. The reason they led the cycle is because they are driven by liquidity, not the business cycle itself. The Russell 2000 oil companies and gold miners are driven by the business cycle. The business cycle controls all of them. We can see that right now because the ISM is fighting to go up. When it does, we'll have an upcycle, and stocks that are sensitive to that will do well. Tech is way ahead of that by more than a year. And if liquidity is what's making it happen, we need to know what's going on with liquidity. I think Mike Howell was with you last week. Mike is always great at this. This is something that Global Macro Investor and Real Vision Pro Macro do a lot of work on. That's because FedNet liquidity is what drives its liquidity in the US right now. The bank sheet is what makes it happen. Is it going up or down? It's in QT right now. They are taking money out of the system, but the reverse repo makes up for it. They've been taking that away. That cash is put into the market, specifically the short end of the bond market. That has been adding money, and it more than makes up for what the Fed does. Next, there's Janet Yellen and her bank account, which is called the Treasury General account. That's the account she has now. We also took money out of the system because of the tax season, which was pretty busy because the economy did pretty well last year. That tax money leaves Janet's money market funds and goes into her bank accounts. They can't be used right now because Janet hasn't spent them yet. That money is taken out of the system. That's a release of cash. Okay, so that's what made tech and crypto go down. Every time I listen to Sam Altman, the way he talks makes me think that their internal progress with an OpenAI is much further along than most people think. In my view, they are using AI to build software products. This is how 500 people can work so quickly in so many areas and change everything every 3 months. The OpenAI developer meeting will happen sometime this month. I think they are, and this is where David and I have been talking about this. I think there will be another big change. It was always very interesting, but I can't remember who interviewed him. Someone said, oh, that was a shock when Sora came out. Lex Friedman was one of them. So Dan, he told us we should have slowed down a bit because we don't want to shock people too quickly. This makes me think. A lot of the people I hear this talk from are very careful. They want him to beat everyone, but they don't want him to move too quickly and get caught by the monitor. Right on, right on. Then he says, you need to control us, but he's already so far ahead of himself. He and other people are playing a very smart game. Anthropica is doing the same thing. They said, you have to keep everyone safe from the AI, but we're fine. Elon Musk has also talked about the need for power. Everyone told Sam Altman that we don't have enough power to run the machines we need to do this. That doesn't necessarily make me optimistic about fossil fuels because I think there is a huge push to get energy from other sources, because oil is hard to deal with politically. We can see this in Europe and other places. In Europe, people don't like how the oil price changes all the time. Solar, wind, and geothermal power are all getting a lot of attention. Apple and Amazon are already moving toward nuclear power in the US. David has talked a lot about this, so yeah, I guess David thinks a lot, and more people trade single stock options on tech stocks than on the SP 500. Okay. In the United States, the stock option market on tech names is the busiest market in the world. In other words, this is not the same as trading Eurodollar options or something like that. The world's largest market is here. It can help you a lot, so people should know how to use it. Don't just use it to guess about the world. How to get the most out of things is something Imran thinks about a lot. You could also ask yourself, Maggie, how can I become more at ease with the risks I face since I don't like drawdowns or anything else? What if we said that liquidity is the most important thing for risky assets, and especially for growing assets like crypto and tech? The reason they led the cycle is because they are driven by liquidity, not the business cycle itself. The Russell 2000 oil companies and gold miners are driven by the business cycle. The business cycle controls all of them. We can see that the ESM is having a hard time going up right now. Once it does, we'll have an upcycle, which will be good for those stocks. Tech is way ahead of that by more than a year. And if liquidity is what's making it happen, we need to know what's going on with liquidity. I think Mike Howell was with you last week. Mike is always great at this. This is something that Global Macro Investor and Real Vision Pro Macro do a lot of work on. And the US's basic amount of liquidity is controlled by something called Fed net liquidity. The bank sheet is what makes it happen. Is it going up or down? They're in QT right now, which means they're removing cash from the system.